Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me on the fourth episode in the devlog about the game I work on. Now let's get started. Because I was away for so long from my main project, being busy with real life things and of course the community game jam I took part in, I spent about a day to get through my code again before I went on with its development. It was really refreshing to look through the code with a new perspective, as I had plenty of time to learn new things related to Unity and coding in general in these past weeks, so I decided to work really hard in applying them to my new project as well. But before showing you my progress in the past 2 weeks, let's see a short recap of where I left off with the project in my previous video. When you pressed the OK button, you accepted the trade and it removed the item from your inventory before making the customer leave the shop. In case of pressing cancel, the customer simply left. With the basic functionality of a customer done, as seen in the recap, let's see how far I've got with the development now. I didn't really like the idea that the customer's request popped on screen as soon as he reached the table, and it wasn't really realistic either, so I wanted to update that first. To make it more realistic, I had to make the request show up only when both the customer and shopkeeper are at the table at the same time. But for that, I first needed to implement the pathfinding algorithm to the shopkeeper as well. Currently, he moved from one location to the other without taking into account obstacles. Although implementing the pathfinding algorithm was fairly simple, as I have already implemented it with the customers, I have stumbled across a problem related to collision. It turned out that my worker didn't know how to move around obstacles in front of him yet, and instead insisted on taking the shortest path, blocking himself on his way to his destination. It took me a few failed attempts to fix this from the pathfinding algorithm itself, until I better understood what exactly can be changed using the parameters of the algorithm, but soon I came up with different solutions for my problems. Although I wasn't really satisfied with the results, I went for a temporary solution where I decreased the cell sizes of the pathfinding algorithm for a more accurate read on the environment. Basically, the smaller the size of the cells, the better it could calculate which zones were walkable and which were obstacles. This way, my shopkeeper didn't try to cut corners and stopped blocking himself in the table. With the movement done, normally I should have started implementing the queue system at the table. But there was one thing that I really didn't like in my current interface, if you can call it that. The inventory, of course. So naturally, what anyone would do with a placeholder, I redesigned it. I removed all the unnecessary information and placed all in a tooltip that only popped up when you moused over the object. In my defense, I think it looks way better now. Now, to continue with the actual development plan, the queuing system. Here, I wanted to make something simple but also kind of realistic, where customers had to stand in line at the counter and wait for their turn to demand their items. I must say, I had plenty of issues with this feature. I really didn't expect to stumble across this many issues, but sometimes the easier things seem to take up more time than the difficult ones to finish. At one time, I even managed to make my customers start bullying my shopkeeper. They literally pushed him away from the counter and didn't let him take orders. In the end, I kind of felt like I spent way too much time on this feature and I had too many issues with it, so I decided to work on something else to clear my mind and start over some other time. So I started writing the game's own documentation. Yep, that's right, documentation, the nightmare of most programmers. I know many programmers hate it, and honestly, so do I sometimes, but I found that writing a documentation for my game would be of best interest to me. Therefore, in the times I don't feel like I am progressing at all with the code, I go on and write an in-depth documentation about what I want my game to contain in the end, as well as write down a lot of notes for myself regarding all the ideas I have, even if I end up never implementing them. You never really know what information will deem valuable and what not, so it's better to have it written down and you can get back to it whenever you want to. And that pretty much sums up most of my progress I made in the past weeks on the game. I hope you enjoyed this summary, and I would also like to remind you that you should really go check out my Instagram page, where I try to make an update with my progress every 3 or 4 days, depending on whether I actually have something to show or I just refactored half of my code. Also, I would like to thank you for watching this episode as well, and if you liked it, please consider sharing, as it means a lot to me. Have a great week, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.